Ready to dive in today? We're tackling a career path that many people find intriguing. Leather laboratory
It
technician.
is an interesting one.
Yeah, it really is. And we've got some excerpts here from RoleCatcher, and we're going to use those to kind of unpack what this role is all about.
That's good.
All right, so when we think about leather, I think most people, their minds probably go to the finished product, right?
Right. Like a beautiful leather jacket, maybe a luxury car interior.
Exactly. But today we're going behind the scenes, right? We want to discover what makes those products so amazing because there's a lot of science involved.
Absolutely. There's a ton of science behind the scenes, and that's where leather laboratory technician comes in.
So true. So tell me, what does a leather laboratory technician actually do on a day-to-day basis?
Okay. Picture this. You're in a lab, but instead of bubbling beakers, you're surrounded by some pretty high-tech equipment. We're talking gas chromatographs, spectrophotometers.
Whoa, whoa, slow down. Gas chromatographs. That sounds pretty intense. What are we analyzing here?
It is intense, and it's all about analyzing everything. So let's say you have a leather handbag. We want to make sure that beautiful red dye stays vibrant.
Right, we don't want any fading.
Exactly. So we would use spectrophotometry to analyze how the dye absorbs light, how color fast it is.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah. Or let's say we want to make sure the tanning agents used in the leather are environmentally friendly. That's where gas chromatography comes in. It can actually identify the specific types of tanning agents used.
It seems like a leather laboratory technician needs a strong background in chemistry.
Chemistry is key. You're analyzing chemical compositions, understanding how different substances react with the leather, and how those reactions ultimately affect the final product.
It's not just about knowing the periodic table, right? You're
Right.
actually using that knowledge, like you said, to create these amazing products. What about attention to detail? Is that something that's important in this role?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even a tiny error in measurement or in the testing process can make a huge difference. It could be the difference between a supple, long-lasting leather and something that cracks or fades way too soon.
Oh, wow. There's some pressure there to get it right.
Definitely. But seeing your work result in a beautiful and high-quality product, there's nothing like it.
So rewarding. So it sounds like there's definitely room to grow in this field, right? You start maybe by mastering the basics, but then what? What comes next?
You'd probably start as a lab technician, getting really hands-on with all those tests we've been talking about, learning the ropes, getting comfortable with the equipment, and mastering that precision.
It's like a leather apprenticeship, but instead of, needles and thread, you've got your test tubes and beakers.
Exactly. And you'd be working closely with those more senior technicians, so lots of learning and refining your skills along the way.
So once you've got a good handle on those fundamentals, what's the next step up?
That's when things get really interesting. You might move into a junior technician role.
Okay, junior technician. I like the sound of that. What does that entail?
So you're handling more complex tests now, analyzing those results independently, and you might even get to experiment with some new testing methods.
I imagine that would be really exciting for someone who loves problem solving.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the technical stuff at that point. You'd probably start collaborating more with other teams, like the design team or even the production team.
Oh, interesting. So you're explaining your findings, making recommendations based on all your analysis.
Exactly. You become this bridge between the science and the artistry of it all.
I love that. So you're not just stuck in the lab all day, you're actually getting to interact with other departments.
And as you continue to build that experience and that expertise, you can really climb that leather lab ladder, so to speak.
Okay, so for someone who's really ambitious, what's at the very top of that ladder? What's the ultimate leadership role in this world?
Think senior leather laboratory technician,
Ooh, senior leather laboratory technician. That has a nice ring to it.
right? Now you're the maestro. You're overseeing projects, you're managing a team of technicians, and you're making sure that everything meets those really strict industry standards.
You've gone from analyzing dyes to leading a whole team of leather scientists. That's amazing. But let's be real, every job has its pros and cons. What are some of the downsides of working in a leather laboratory?
Well, you are working with chemicals, some of which can be hazardous.
That makes sense.
So safety is really paramount in this role. You need to be comfortable following strict protocols, handling those potentially dangerous substances responsibly.
So it's not a job for someone who's afraid of a little risk. What about the work itself? Are there any other physical demands?
It can be physically demanding. You're on your feet a lot, maybe lifting heavy equipment or handling those leather samples. It's not always a desk job.
Right, I wouldn't want to wrestle a cowhide on my own. So for someone who's thinking, this sounds amazing, how do I get started? What are the most important skills for someone to thrive as a leather laboratory technician? We touched on the science background, but what else?
Critical thinking. You need to be able to analyze data, interpret results, and troubleshoot problems. It's not enough just to follow a procedure. You really need to understand the why behind it all.
It's like you said before, you're kind of like a detective in a way.
You got it.
Yeah.
And of course, you need strong communication skills.
Ah, right. Because you're not just writing reports for yourself, you're presenting findings, collaborating with colleagues.
Exactly. Being able to explain these really complex technical topics in a clear and concise way is so important.
Okay, so we've got the passion, we've got the knowledge. Now it's time to land that interview. What kind of questions can someone expect to be asked in an interview for this type of role?
Well, be ready to talk about your passion for this field. Why leather? What is it about the material or the science behind it that really excites you?
So just saying, I love the smell of a new car probably isn't going to cut it.
Probably not. They want to see that genuine interest and that you've really thought about what it means to work with leather.
Okay, so a genuine love of leather is a good start. What else?
Of course, they're going to assess your technical knowledge. Brush up on those testing methods, those quality control procedures, industry standards. They might even throw in a hypothetical lab scenario.
A real-world leather challenge to solve.
Exactly. And one more thing. Don't forget about safety.
Right, safety first.
Exactly. Be prepared to talk about your comfort level working with chemicals and how familiar you are with standard lab safety protocols.
So you're not just showing off your knowledge, you're demonstrating that you can handle yourself in a lab environment responsibly. It sounds like acing this interview is about finding that balance, right? You need that passion, the knowledge, and a strong awareness of safety. But let's say someone's made it through the interview, they're ready to learn more about the field. Where can they go? Who can they connect with?
Well, there's a great organization called the Society of Leather Technologists and Chemists, or SLTC for short.
That's LTC, got it.
It's a global network of leather experts, researchers, professionals, all passionate about, pushing the industry forward.
Oh, I love that. So it's like a community, too, where you can connect with other people who are just as passionate about leather as you are.
Absolutely. They have journals, research papers, they hold conferences and workshops. It's really the best way to stay updated on all the latest and greatest in the leather world.
It sounds like a fantastic resource for anyone who's serious about this field. Now, you mentioned earlier that RoleCatcher provided some of the insights for our deep dive today.
They did, yes.
So for folks listening who want even more information, would that be a good place to start?
It's a great place to start. They've got information on tons of different careers, but they have a lot on leather specifically. They've got skill guides, company profiles. They even have interview tips that are tailored to the field.
Oh, wow. So they really go deep. What about online resources? Like, are there any other websites or online communities that you recommend checking out?
Don't underestimate the power of LinkedIn. I mean, it's not just about, finding a job. You can connect with people who are actually out there working in these labs every single day. Ask them questions, learn from their experiences.
I love that. You can really tap into the network of people who are already doing what you aspire to do. This deep dive has been incredible. We've learned so much about the science, the precision, even the artistry involved in working with leather.
It really is a fascinating field. It blends that traditional craftsmanship with, all this cutting-edge technology.
Absolutely. And for anyone out there listening who's got that passion for quality, a love for leather, it sounds like it could be an amazing career.
Mm-hmm.
But as we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with this thought. We've talked a lot about analyzing leather, testing it, making sure it meets these high standards. But what about the future of leather?
That's a great question.
Where do you see this industry going, and how can someone with these skills help shape that future?
Well, you could combine those technical skills, that scientific knowledge, with, a passion for design, for color, for texture. You could be the one who's not just ensuring quality, but actually influencing trends, pioneering more sustainable practice, even coming up with completely new materials, maybe even something that's even better than leather.
It's like you become an innovator, right? You're pushing the boundaries of what's possible. That's incredible. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your expertise on this fascinating field. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. And to everyone listening, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and maybe even inspired you to explore a career path you hadn't considered before. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and who knows, maybe you'll be the one changing the world of leather.